This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Donald Trump says he'll move to normalize relations and lift sanctions on Syria's new government. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Members of Congress are pushing back on President Trump's plan to accept a free Air Force One replacement from Qatar. Ed Donahue, Washington.
The Trump administration being sued over immigration enforcement. I'm Clayton Neville.
A federal grand jury has now indicted a Wisconsin judge accused of helping a man evade immigration authorities. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
A former model testifying in Harvey Weinstein's retrial on sex assault charges. Julie Walker, New York.
One of France's most recognizable movie stars is found guilty of sexual assault. I'm John Stolnis.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump announces plans to relieve sanctions on Syria. Correspondent Haya Panjwani says the announcement comes as the president is visiting the Middle East.
President Donald Trump says he'll move to normalize relations and lift sanctions on Syria's new government to give the country a chance at peace.
That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
Trump is set to meet with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara Wednesday. Al-Shara led the overthrow of former leader Bashar Assad. Then President Joe Biden left the decision to recognize the new Syrian government up to Trump. The president announced in Riyadh,
I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
The developments are a major boost for the Syrian president, who at one point was imprisoned in Iraq. Al-Shara is set to become the first Syrian leader to meet an American president since the late Hafez Assad met Bill Clinton in Geneva in 2000. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Qatar wants to gift a luxury Boeing Jet to President Trump. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports that gesture is being met with some pushback on Capitol Hill.
Members of Congress are pushing back on President Trump's plan to accept a free Air Force One replacement from Qatar. The president calls it a nice gesture.
I could be a stupid person to say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says it's not just naked corruption, it's a grave national security threat.
I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers.
Florida Republican Rick Scott calls Qatar not a great ally.
They support Hamas, and so what I'm worried about is the safety of the President of the United States.
Oklahoma Republican Markwayne Mullin defended the deal, saying, why should we care if another country wanted to give the United States a gift? Ed Donahue, Washington.
20 states are suing the Trump administration over immigration enforcement demands. Correspondent Clayton Neville has that story.
Democratic attorneys general from the 20 states are behind two lawsuits surrounding what the states are calling threats to withhold billions of dollars if they don't uphold new immigration enforcement requirements. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and the Department of Transportation involved in the first suit regarding money for bridges, roads, and other projects, and the other directed at Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security regarding federal money for disaster recovery. Duffy and Noem have suggested that states could lose money if they don't help the administration's crackdown on immigration. The lawsuits challenge whether it's legal or not for the administration to potentially pull dozens of federal grants in those states. No federal money, though, has been scaled back or stopped to this point. I'm Clayton Neville.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Sleep better with Sleep Number. Now during the Memorial Day sale, all smart beds and bases are on sale, plus free home delivery, exclusively at a Sleep Number store. When we return on America in the Morning, Wisconsin judge indicted and victory for Pete Rose. Back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Texas breaking for record-breaking temperatures through this weekend. Here's today's national outlook with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Following several days in the 80s and 90s from the end of last week into the start of this week from the Intermountain West into the upper Midwest, cooler air will now progress into many of these areas during the second half of this week as a cold front makes some progress to the east. Today's relief from the heat should be focused from a zone around the Utah-Colorado border into the western Dakotas, with highs in the 60s and 70s turning out 15 to 25 degrees lower than early week temperatures as showers and some pockets of steadier rain develop, even thunder for some. However, some places staying ahead of the cold front instead face a continued surge of warmth, and this means that the south central and southern plains will have a hot middle of the week in store, with widespread 90s in Kansas and Oklahoma, even some triple-digit heat over parts of Texas. The heat and even the humidity ahead of this cold front will help to spark the threat for severe weather from the Dakotas into Nebraska and portions of Minnesota and Iowa, with large hail, strong winds, and some tornadoes all possible this afternoon and into tonight. Wet weather is also likely today from the southeast to the Great Lakes and into the northeast as a storm crawls its way across the eastern states, with at least a stray shower expected from the Atlanta area through most of Wisconsin and eastward to upstate New York and Connecticut. Numerous showers and some thunderstorms are more likely from southern lower Michigan to western and southern Pennsylvania and southward to around the border of the Carolinas today. In Baltimore, expect breezy conditions today with afternoon showers and a thunderstorm around with a high reaching 74. For Omaha, Nebraska, today looks sunny, breezy, and hot with a high getting up to 91. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. A federal grand jury has indicted a Wisconsin judge. As correspondent Lisa Dwyer reminds us, the move comes over accusations of helping an illegal immigrant avoid ICE agents.
In April, federal prosecutors charged Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan with concealing an individual to prevent arrest and obstruction. FBI agents arrested Dugan at the Milwaukee County Courthouse a week after authorities say that she directed the man, who was in court that day on a domestic abuse case, out a back door in her courtroom after learning that immigration agents were in the courthouse searching for him. According to court documents, the man had illegally re-entered the U.S. after being deported in 2013. Dugan's attorneys say she maintains her innocence. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Following proceedings in the Harvey Weinstein trial, where an ex-model took to the stand, is correspondent Julie Walker.
A former model testifying in Harvey Weinstein's retrial on sex assault charges has been questioned about a private journal she wrote a decade ago. A lawyer for Weinstein noted to jurors Tuesday that the journal by Kaya Sokola names at least 2 people who had sexually assaulted her. Neither one was the disgraced former Hollywood mogul. Sokola and prosecutors complained that the handwritten text from 2015 should not be made public, as they were written as part of a substance abuse treatment program. The judge said he also had concerns about its authenticity and completeness. Weinstein denies the charges. Julie Walker, New York.
2 baseball greats but controversial figures have been posthumously reinstated. Correspondent Gethin Coolball reports.
Pete Rose and shoeless Joe Jackson were reinstated by Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred on Tuesday, making both eligible for the Sports Hall of Fame after their careers were tarnished by sports gambling scandals. Rose's permanent ban was lifted 8 months after his death and comes a day before the Cincinnati Reds will honor baseball's career hits leader with Pete Rose Night. Manfred announced that he was changing the league's policy on permanent ineligibility, saying bans would expire after death. It appears the earliest Rose or Jackson could be inducted would be in 2028. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Inflation down, come back on Wall Street when America in the Morning returns after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments has a team of specialists in investing, financial planning, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Wednesday Business.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day yesterday for stocks. Inflation rose less than expected last month. But the Dow struggled yesterday because the CEO of United Health surprised investors by stepping down. Its shares tanked 17%. That Dow fell 269 points. But the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 were in the green yesterday. The S&P opens this morning where it was on the very first trading day of this year, which was January 2nd. If you have an account with an S&P 500 index fund in it, it's recovered all of its losses for the past 5.5 months.
This is the best comeback from a 20% decline in the S&P 500, except for the 2019 example. It was also related to trade war, and we got that rally. So it's hard to expect this to keep going up at this angle. However, anything can happen.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. President Trump in Saudi Arabia for a business summit, and the White House announced a $600 billion investment in the United States by the kingdom, with more deals announced between NVIDIA and Elon Musk's SpaceX. Inflation came in slightly cooler than expected in April in the new CPI report, the Consumer Price Index. 2.3%, the smallest increase in 4 years, and what economists call maybe a final lull before tariffs turn inflation higher.
Somewhat better news on so-called headline for sure. The core inflation number has moved sideways at 2.8. That's not exactly moving directly towards 2.
Former Fed Vice Chair Roger Ferguson on CNBC. The Fed's goal is 2% inflation. The U.S. isn't there yet. Another take on that inflation data from Morgan Stanley chief economist Ellen Zentner on CNBC.
Look, this number doesn't matter because the tariff effects are going to really start to show up in next month's number.
Boeing delivered more planes in April, nearly double the number completed and delivered in March.
Stocks above 200 at a 52-week high. The reason? We got April orders and deliveries, and these were not spectacular numbers, but they were solid numbers, and they continue to show progress, and that's what investors want right now. For the month, they delivered 45 airplanes, 2 to Chinese airlines before China said, we may not take airplanes, though they are reportedly now back in the mood to take Boeing aircraft.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau. A load of job cuts were announced. Microsoft slashing 3% of its workforce, nearly 7,000 people. Nissan cutting 20,000 jobs globally. AMC offering half-price movie tickets every Wednesday this summer. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Sony, Burberry, and Jack in the Box. Tonight, the NFL releases the full 2025-2026 season schedule. Amazon's 2-day Pet Day sale ends tonight.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Wednesday Business. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports an investigation by a global aviation agency found Russia is responsible for downing a civilian jet over Ukraine in 2014.
The Council of the International Civil Aviation Organization has found Russia responsible for shooting down Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 over Ukraine with the loss of 298 lives more than a decade ago. The ruling raises the prospect of victims' families being paid compensation. A Dutch-led international probe concluded in 2016 that the Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur airliner was shot down in 2014 from Ukraine territory held by separatist rebels using a Buk missile system delivered from Russia. For its part, Moscow's denied any involvement in the MH17 tragedy. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
When we return on America in the Morning, new images from the final frontier after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. A court in France has found French film star Gerard Depardieu guilty of sexual assault. Correspondent John Stolness has more.
The court found that the now 76-year-old actor assaulted 2 women on the set of a film he was shooting back in 2021, convicted of groping a 54-year-old set dresser and a 34-year-old assistant while filming the French film The Green Shutters. Depardieu was given an 18-month suspended prison sentence and was fined just over $22,000. The case was seen as a referendum on French culture's response to their own Me Too movement. Depardieu had previously been accused by more than 20 women of sexual misconduct, but this is the only case that has gone to court. Depardieu was nominated for an Oscar for his role as Cyrano de Bergerac back in 1991 and has appeared in more than 250 films, making him a giant in the French film industry. I'm John Stolness.
Correspondent Ben Thomas reports the latest images from the Webb Space Telescope show dazzling displays above Jupiter.
On Earth, perhaps our most spectacular celestial sights are the northern lights, colorful waves dancing across the night skies. They're auroras produced when high-energy particles from space collide with atoms of gas in the atmosphere near the planet's magnetic poles. Now imagine that on Jupiter, a planet some 1,300 times the size of Earth. Images from the James Webb Space Telescope reveal dazzling auroras on Jupiter scientists say are hundreds of times brighter than those we see in our atmosphere. Webb's previously captured the auroras glowing around Neptune. Ben Thomas, Washington.
It was on this date that the State Theater in Washington, Iowa, officially opened its doors. They're recognized by the Guinness World Records as the oldest continually operating movie theater in the world. The date was May 14th, 1897. America in the Morning is produced by Alexander Hinton. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The president making deals in the Middle East. I'm Clayton Neville.
The congressional backlash over Qatar's gift of a 747 to President Trump intensifies. I'm Rich Johnson.
The budget airline Avelo has begun carrying out deportations for ICE. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Cassie Ventura spent the entire day on the witness stand testifying in her former boyfriend Sean Diddy Combs' trial.
The television studios are wooing advertisers in a week-long event. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. President Trump begins his visit in the Middle East by meeting with leaders in Saudi Arabia. Correspondent Clayton Neville is following the president's journey.
Saudi Arabia has agreed to invest $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years, with a deal that covers energy, minerals, and a $142 billion arms package.
Our task is to unify against the few agents of chaos and terror that are left and that are holding hostage the dreams of millions and millions of great people.
President Trump says the investment will create millions of jobs with a goal to unite the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia leading the way.
It's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country.
The president also announced the U.S. will drop sanctions against Syria and allow that country a chance at what Trump described as greatness.
Secretary Marco Rubio will be meeting with the new Syrian foreign minister in Turkey later this week.
President Trump catching some grief from Democrats while he's in the Middle East over reports that the president will accept a luxury Boeing jet as a gift from the Qatari royal family. Senator Chuck Schumer.
Donald Trump isn't just blurring the lines between public service and personal profit. He's erasing it.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
A $400 million flying palace is an unconstitutional gift to this president or any president if it is not explicitly approved by the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate.
As Democrats demand more information about the jet, the president's in Qatar today and the UAE tomorrow. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Trump will head to Doha, the capital of Qatar, during his visit to the Middle East. That's the oil-rich country that wants to give the president a 747. Correspondent Rich Johnson says that gift is causing a lot of grief.
For the moment, that attempted gift is costing the White House a fully staffed Justice Department.
I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer announced that hold yesterday, adding strong words about the whole deal.
News of the Qatari government gifting Donald Trump a $400 million private jet to use as Air Force One is so corrupt that even Putin would give a double take.
The hold on nominees, which any senator can impose, will delay confirmation of the president's picks for top Justice Department posts, including U.S. attorneys. Other Senate Democrats, like Arizona's Mark Kelly, are also outraged at the deal with Qatar.
Gift, bribe, call it what you want. I imagine the government of Qatar would expect a return on this investment in the President of the United States. So this is ridiculous to think that he could take this airplane.
And Missouri Republican Josh Hawley says it's not what the U.S. needs from Qatar right now.
It's a nice gesture, but I think maybe the thing to do is to say, hey, we appreciate it, but there's a lot of other things you could help us out with, like stopping coddling Islamic fundamentalist terrorists in their own country.
North Carolina Republican Tom Tillis says the basic logistics of converting that plane make it nearly impossible.
Everybody needs to know that Air Force One is not like every other Boeing, and it's going to have to be put through a lot of paces and probably every square inch analyzed before I think the president should consider it as primary means of transportation.
A White House official accused Schumer of prioritizing politics over critical Justice Department nominations, which obstructs President Trump's agenda. I'm Rich Johnson.
On Capitol Hill, Republicans are working to advance President Trump's package of tax breaks. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
House Speaker Mike Johnson hopes to send the bill containing more than $5 trillion in tax breaks to the Senate by Memorial Day.
That's what this committee will deliver in the one big, beautiful bill.
Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith.
It makes permanent the 2017 Tax Cut and Jobs Act.
Smith says he's been over the provisions with President Trump line by line.
No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and tax relief for seniors.
President Trump, speaking in Saudi Arabia, says Congress is about to pass the largest tax cut and regulation cut in American history.
And if we get that, that will be like a rocket ship for our country.
The package boosts spending on deportations and the Pentagon. It rolls back green energy tax credits, but faces opposition from Democrats.
They want to pay for it by sticking us with additional debt.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
And by enacting the largest health care cut in American history.
Jennifer King, Washington.
Airline pays the price for helping with deportation flights. That and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. The Menendez brothers will have a new shot at freedom after 35 years behind bars for murdering their parents. Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Michael Jessic reduced the sentences of Eric and Lyle Menendez from life without parole to 50 years to life. That means they're now eligible for parole under California's youthful offender law because they were under the age of 26 when they committed the crime. While the sentence reduction is a major win for the brothers, defense attorney Mark Garagos said he'd been seeking to have their charges reduced to manslaughter, which would have allowed them to be released immediately. But the judge did not go that far, saying, quote, "I'm not saying they should be released. It's not for me to decide," adding, "I do believe they've done enough in the past 35 years that they should get that chance," end quote. The state parole board must still decide whether or not to release them from prison. A budget airline has begun helping ICE with deportation flights, but as correspondent Haya Panjwani reports, that carrier is now the subject of boycotts.
Avelo is a budget airline that serves mostly small U.S. cities and has begun federal deportation flights out of Arizona. It's inspired an online boycott petition and sharp criticism from the union representing the carrier's flight attendants. Spokesperson for the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Liz Throssell, shares concerns about how these deportation flights are operated.
The manner in which some of the individuals were detained and deported, including the use of shackles on them, as well as the demeaning rhetoric used against migrants, has also been profoundly disturbing.
Deliberations in Congress started last month on a tax bill with a goal of funding the removal of 1 million immigrants annually and housing 100,000 people in U.S. detention centers. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
Day 2 of testimony in the trial of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs saw his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura on the witness stand. Correspondent Julie Walker is keeping track of proceedings.
Cassie Ventura spent the entire day on the witness stand testifying in her former boyfriend Sean Diddy Combs' trial. The singer told jurors, at times through tears, about the freak-offs where Diddy would direct and watch her have sex with paid male escorts at hotels in various cities, something that became weekly. Cassie said she had to take drugs like Molly and MDMA to get through them, but was too afraid of Diddy's temper and of him using videos and photos from the freak-offs against her to say no. She's about to have her third child, and her husband was in the courtroom. Combs' family was also there. He denies the charges and sat through Cassie's testimony, at times whispering with his lawyers, at other times straining to see the evidence that was put up on the court monitor. At court in Manhattan, I'm Julie Walker.
The family of a Boeing whistleblower who killed himself after lawyers questioned the validity of his claims has settled a wrongful death lawsuit against the aircraft maker. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has that story.
The family of a former Boeing quality control manager who killed himself after lawyers questioned him about his whistleblowing has settled a lawsuit against the airplane maker. John Barnett was a longtime Boeing employee and reported what he thought were jumbo jet defects to Boeing. After Barnett retired in 2017, he shared his concerns with journalists. He said he once saw discarded metal shavings near wiring for the flight controls that could have cut wiring, and noted problems with up to a quarter of the oxygen systems on Boeing's 787 planes. Boeing says that the company took actions several years ago to address those issues. Details of the settlement were not disclosed. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Google is preparing to roll out the Android 16 update, which will feature a bunch of new security features. Correspondent Chuck Palm has more on that story in today's Tech News.
Google has announced some advanced security features for Android 16. Some of the new highlights of the improved security and privacy settings of Android 16 are the advanced protection features. Advanced protection includes a suite of security features combining new capabilities such as intrusion logging, including power, privacy-preserving, logging, and allows for security investigation analysis of your device if it is compromised. This works in tandem with other features that are upgraded under device safety, including theft detection lock, offline device lock, and an inactivity reboot. There is a laundry list of additional features from the Android 16 upgrade, and it has been designed specifically for at-risk individuals like elected officials, public figures, and even journalists. Additional features of note are the Android Safe Browsing feature, spam and scam protection, and Google Play Protect. According to a leak on Android Authority, version 16 should drop within the next 2 months. Find me at chuckpalm.com.
Midweek Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's John Stolness.
Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred yesterday announced a sweeping change removing all deceased players from the league's permanently ineligible list. That includes baseball's all-time hits leader Pete Rose and legendary Black Sox star shoeless Joe Jackson. Rose admitted late in life to betting on the team he managed, the Cincinnati Reds, and Jackson admitted to taking money from gamblers to help throw the 1919 World Series. That means both could be admitted to the Hall of Fame if the baseball writers who vote on it decide both are worthy. MLB Network insider Joel Sherman says this move by Manfred is not a surprise.
I think we'll all have recency bias, and we'll talk about the Pete Rose decision. Joe Jackson probably belongs in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and at least there's some questions about really what his guilt was in the 1919 World Series. He did hit .375 in it. And so I think this is a Joe Jackson, Pete Rose discussion.
The earliest either player could be voted into Cooperstown is 2028, but there is still significant opposition to Rose being inducted in particular. After earning the top seed in the NBA's Eastern Conference playoffs, the Cleveland Cavaliers season is over in a quick 5 games following last night's 114-105 loss to the 4th-seeded Indiana Pacers.
5 to shoot. Turner, he puts it down. Miles Turner with the biggest shot of his season.
The call there from TNT, that clutch shot in the waning moments from Miles Turner in front of a stunned Cleveland crowd. Tyrese Halliburton scored 31 points to lead the Pacers, and Indiana will take on the winner of the Celtics and Knicks series, in which Boston must win 3 in a row to avoid elimination. They're the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they'll have to do it without star Jason Tatum, who underwent surgery for a torn Achilles he suffered in Monday night's Game 4 loss. And on the ice, the Dallas Stars took a 3-1 series lead by handing the Winnipeg Jets a 3-1 loss. They are now 1 win away from the Western Conference Finals. And that's your look at sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, actor guilty of sexual assault, and Kim K takes the witness stand. Back with those stories and more after these messages. This is America in the Morning. A Paris court has found French actor Gérard Depardieu guilty of sexual assault. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports the trial was seen as a test of the #MeToo movement in France.
Police and media personnel arrive at the Paris tribunal. Depardieu, who has denied the accusations, chose not to attend Tuesday's hearing. The actor, who's 76, had been convicted of having groped a 54-year-old set dresser and a 34-year-old assistant during the filming of Les Volets Verts, The Green Shutters. During the 4-day trial in March, Depardieu rejected the accusations, saying he's not like that. He acknowledged that he had used vulgar and sexualized language on the film set, and that he had grabbed the set dresser's hips during an argument, but denied that his behavior was sexual. The case has widely been seen as a key post #MeToo test of how French society and its film industry address allegations of sexual misconduct involving prominent figures. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Kim Kardashian took to the witness stand in the trial of the alleged jewel thieves who are accused of robbing her in 2016. Correspondent Ed Donahue has details.
Kim Kardashian testified about being bound and held at gunpoint during a Paris robbery. Kardashian told the court she said a silent prayer for her sister, her best friend, her family, as a masked man pulled her toward him in a Paris hotel during the 2016 jewelry heist. Her attorney, Michael Rhodes, says this was a very violent crime.
She was essentially naked, bound on a bed. Strange men are touching her. They're pulling her. She thinks in her mind that she's being raped or murdered.
Kardashian says she absolutely did think she was going to die. Men in masks stole more than $6 million in jewelry. A decade later, she faced them again, this time from the witness stand.
This was a devastating experience for her. It fundamentally changed the arc of her life and the way she's lived her life ever since.
Prosecutors in France say the men, most in their 60s and 70s, were part of a seasoned criminal ring. I'm Ed Donahue.
Well, lots of changes are happening in television this week. With details, here's entertainment correspondent Kevin Carr.
The upfronts are this week, in which studios pitch their upcoming seasons to advertisers. This year's events were less accessible to the press, but some footage has leaked, like the Digi.com's clips from NBC Universal.
Hello everyone, I'm Seth Meyers, or for the right price, Tostitos presents Seth Meyers.
Some celebrities, like Jimmy Kimmel, are participating in stunts to capture advertisers' attention.
My oldest daughter is about to have a baby. I am offering naming rights to my grandchild.
The network presentations show more competition as broadcasters differentiate themselves from streaming. There has also been a stronger focus on sports as well as Spanish language programming. The fall schedules already reflect series that have been renewed or canceled. The Conners on ABC, Hulu's The Handmaid's Tale, and Netflix's Stranger Things were already known to be in their final seasons. NBC has several shows on the chopping block, including Lopez vs. Lopez, Night Court, and Suits LA. Renewed shows include long-running series like ABC's Grey's Anatomy and Fox's animation block with American Dad, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, and The Simpsons. And a special renewal spotlight goes out to Apple TV Plus for hitting replay on Severance for a third season and a return of Ted Lasso for season 4. NBC, Fox, Amazon, and Disney already presented. Warner Brothers, Netflix, and YouTube will have their upfronts later today. I'm Kevin Carr.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, May 14th, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.